One. Yes, thanks, Captain. And we are here on a perfectly normal Blaine Road day. As you can see, blue skies, what we'll expect for the entire summer. I'm here with Mark Westenberg, who is the golf course architect, and Jerry Byrne, the head greenkeeper at the K Club, who is our agronomy advisor. And I'm going to start with Mark in terms of explaining perhaps what we've been doing here for the last 6-7 months. Of course, the project has its DNA far further back in time than that. I was very fortunate to join the Greens Committee, to be asked to join the Grounds Committee, in fact, back in August of 2017 under the chairmanship of Tony Tynan. And we were all asked what project we would like to do in the course, and I selected the bunkers, and I went out and did something of a very rough draft of a tour of the bunkers, so to speak, in about February of 2018 to examine the state of them. And it was interesting. They weren't good. As a result of that, I asked Mark Westenberg, who was the course architect here when Hawtrey Design did the major redesign of Blaine Road from tee to green back around 2002. Mark was the architect on site for that entire project, and we asked Mark to come back and do the, I suppose, survey of the bunkers, a bit more scientific than mine. So that was November of 2018, and that really is the beginning point of a project which is hopefully going to be completed in May of 2023. It's 4.5 years, but a lot of thought has gone into this. The chairmanship as well of Billy Nelson and Kieran Lally, absolutely critical to how this project came to the point where the management committee could sign off on it and give us this, not so much exit point, because we're nearly at the exit point, but we're in this point where we're actually seeing the sod being cut in the bunkers. The sand will be going in very shortly, and we're going to see what these bunkers are really going to look like in the next few weeks, and that is the point of this presentation. So I'm firstly going to ask Mark, back in that visit in November of 2018, the bunkers at that stage, as they were existing on the golf course, were around 16 years old, and they were well past their sell-by date. Is that fair to say?
They were indeed, yes. Inevitably bunkers degrade over a period of time. These new ones won't, because the technology for bunkers construction specification has improved massively over the last few years. But when I visited here 4.5 years ago, yes, the bunkers, it was the middle of winter, the sand is contaminated, the edges were worn, there was flooding in the bunkers, and they'd sort of lost their original shape a little bit over time through edging and maintenance. They'd lost their shape, and they were in dire need of renovation, yes.
So the renovation process began, we had a survey, you came in and you did your design.
Yeah.
We were pretty much ready to go, but obviously the funding had to be put together for this to happen. Between November of 2018 and the eventual design that you came up with, it involved a sizable making smaller of the bunkers. Why was that?
For ease of maintenance, and there was absolutely no need, no requirement for the bunkers to be quite as large as they had become over the years, or had been designed. Just because the bunkers are smaller is not going to make them any less effective than they are now. And what I made sure, even when bunkers are slightly smaller, I'm making sure that they are better visible. So the bunkers were quite large, but you couldn't see 80% of the bunker anyway. So we simply made them smaller, and you'll still be seeing the same amount of bunkers as you did before, if not more. And that to me is a critical part of golf course design and bunkers. We talk about the strategy, the positioning of the bunkers, how far they are from tee to green, but most importantly is how they look and how they're maintained. And if we can get that right, if they can look fantastic, if they can play great, then in my view 80% of the job, 90% of the job is done. The positioning of them, especially on fairways, is important, but there's such a variety of distances. The golf is a hidden golf course nowadays. You can get a 20 handicapper hitting the ball 300 yards, but also a 20 handicapper can barely manage 100 yards. Or you can get a 1 handicapper that can barely hit the ball 200 yards, or 1 handicapper hitting it 350 yards. So where do you put fairway bunkers? More or less in the right location is most important. But as mentioned, as long as they look good and they frame the golf hole and they guide the golfer towards the green, that to me is the priority. So that's what I've been trying to achieve for this project.
So we were very lucky and fortunate to have Paul McGinley come out here to have a look at Blaine Row and cast his eye over it. He has a golf course designer's eye on it, and obviously legendary Ryder Cup player and Ryder Cup captain that he is. He had a look at the site and he made one comment which I thought was very interesting. He thought that the previous bunkers, he really liked the design of the previous bunkers, and that they were particularly suited to headland, coastal, cliff golf course design.
Right.
Is there an element of the site here in Blaine Row which lends itself to the style of bunkers that you've designed?
Not particularly. No. The site is stunning. The cliff top holes, the fact you can see the sea for so many of the holes are stunning. And those views need to be complemented by the design of the bunkers. So they need to have a little bit of style, a little bit of shape to them. Simple, oval shaped round bunkers would not have suited a golf course like that because they wouldn't have complemented the stunning views around the golf course. So there's no particular style that fits a particular site. Everything's different. It's all in the eye of the beholder. You choose a style that fits the golf course. This is a private members club. Can't be too difficult, can't be too hard to maintain. It's got to be right for the club and for the site, and I think that's what we've achieved. Hopefully the members will agree when they see the work done or finished in about 4 or 6 weeks' time.
So talk to me about the design philosophy. Bunkers have to be hazards, but they also have to be visual cues and aesthetically pleasing to look at. And you've really heavily leaned on that aesthetic, the fact that Blaine Row is a beautiful place and the bunkers should be beautiful. Talk to me about that.
Couldn't agree more. I've mentioned this before. Positioning, strategy, all very important part of golf, but to me the number one priority is that they look good. And for them to look good, they have to be designed nicely, they have to be visible, they have to frame the golf hole, they have to guide the golfer towards the green. But for them to also look good, they need to be constructed well, and Dar Golf have done a great job constructing them with the highest possible specifications that we have with their sports bond liner system, which will ensure that sand doesn't get contaminated and they drain perfectly. No more puddles and bunkers ever again. What was the question again? I've lost track.
So it was effectively the aesthetic being one of the most important things, as well as the fact that bunkers are hazards.
Absolutely, aesthetics. They are hazards. They have to be hazards. That's all part of golf. That is what golf is all about. If you go into a bunker, you get penalised. It's absolutely critical in my view. You go in a fairway bunker. Should a golfer be able to reach the green from that fairway bunker? In my view, no. They should be able to advance their ball down the fairway and rely on their short game to still try and get the par. But should they be able to reach the green from the bunker? Not necessarily. However, they should be able to get out the bunker. They shouldn't be in a position where they're left with an unplayable line. And the fairway bunkers here will ensure that the ball ends up in a playable position. Of course, you can never totally rule out any rub of the green where the ball just falls into the bunkers and ends up against the edge, but that'll be limited. So yes.
When the bunkers were dug out originally, they looked quite deep, but that's all going to change when the sport bond goes in, the sand goes in. And talk to me about the cutting of the edge of the bunkers. In fact, we have an example of this from out in the course a little bit earlier.
Yeah, sounds very simple. A walk around with a spray in the bunkers, and then the contractor comes in, Dar Golf come in and cut the edge of the bunkers 150 millimeters deep, and then there's 50 millimeters of sports bond and 50 millimeters of sand. So the edge of the bunker, the lip of the bunker, will finally be 50 millimeters. But the process was, and that you members will be able to see that on the video, is that I start by just putting little dashes around the bunker. Then I walk back down the fairway, check that I can see it, go back again, redo it, move those dots around. Sometimes I use stones and I spray a stone white and I position it so I can move them around easily. And it's a process of going up and down several times to make sure that the final shape of the bunker is exactly how I want it. And I also talk to Tony. He's got to maintain them. He's got to be happy that the sand face isn't too high, that he can get his machines to them, get his fly mows to them. And it's also not just the one bunker, but for example, we did the 11th hole, there's 3 bunkers there. There's the approach bunker and a bunker right and left. Those 3 bunkers have to work in conjunction with each other. They are one animal. So the cutting out of the edge, the shaping of the edge, the spraying of the white line is critical to make sure that they all sort of blend together and they can all work together. So I spent quite a lot of time ensuring that the right-hand bunker on the green is visible from behind the approach bunkers. So when you're standing by the fairway bunkers, and you're looking down the fairways, down towards the green, you will see all 3 bunkers. And in fact, you'll see those bunkers from the tee as well, apart from the left-hand green side bunker. And put all those factors together, the way the bunkers are working together, the way the sand lines are working, will without doubt result in a spectacular golf hole. And something you didn't have before, none of that was visible as much as it will be now.
How do you think the project has gone? Because weather hasn't been ideal. It's been an extremely wet winter.
Yeah.
You're here again now in late April, and it's been a couple of months since you've been here.
Yeah.
You know, the bunkers had to settle, the sod had to knit. How did you feel when you came back and saw what's ready to be cut into the bunkers, hopefully in the next few weeks?
Looking great, yeah, you're right. It was very, very wet. There was the threat of Dargolf leaving the site several times during the winter. We managed to keep them here. And I haven't seen them all yet. I've just seen the holes round the clubhouse, and they're looking great. And I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing the final product finished. So I'm very happy with the work that Dargolf have done. They've performed a fantastic job. Yeah, but it's a team effort. It's been Dargolf, it's been me, it's been Jerry, Tony as well, and all the guys over there watching this. And that's what's most important in projects like this. It's a team effort. It's not just me doing it. It's and you as well. Great.
Well, you mentioned Jerry. Jerry Byrne, head greenkeeper in the K Club, has been our agronomy advisor now for nearly 3 years, I think. Jerry, you've seen this project before and we were talking about it, and now you've seen it through its entirety to this point. What have you seen that makes you happy, that makes you maybe question things, and how do you see it panning out over the next few months?
I suppose to echo your comments earlier about what we had 3 years ago, which was bunkers that really did not function, and their playability was, nigh on awful because of the stone contamination that was coming through the bases, and they weren't fit for purpose really 2-3 years ago, and so to be involved in this journey, from its kind of inception 3 years ago to where we are today is just so exciting for us all. For me personally, working with Mark has been a pleasure, working with the management team, and working with Tony, who's done an exceptional job in helping us to grow in the sod and have it prepared for Mark to do the final shaping. I guess where my role was to ensure that the quality control was maintained, and that was for me was to get the sod, get the proper quality sod that was not contaminated with wheatgrasses, and that it settled into the canopy and married into the canopy well. And that introduction of a quality ryegrass sod from Dublin Sod Company, which is just outside Dublin, and I would have visited their nursery a couple of times to ensure that we got the very best of their nursery sod. So working from there, Tony had a huge input into how he wanted to maintain the bunkers from a fly mowing standpoint, working closely with Mark to ensure that we can adequately maintain not only the bunkers but obviously the surrounds of the bunkers, and ensure that we can get it done quickly, efficiently, and then not impacting on the overall look and presentation. Then obviously working into the sand types that we decided to use, and there was actually 3 different types that we looked at: MSK, Darcy's, and then the high quality Breslin sand. And thankfully we went for that sort of bright white Breslin sand, which I think is going to be really the most exciting development when it's all cut out. But when we put in that beautiful white sand, that's when it really comes to life. And so it's a credit to the club, who have taken not only the design into their grasp, but also we were only using the highest quality materials. Not only with dealing with Dargolf, who are the best contractors in the country, using their sports bond, which is now a very well proven world leader in interface between the underlying soil and the sand. But the biggest one for us is obviously having that sand, that Breslin sand, because it just so brightens the entire golf course and the facade and the look of the course. And I think, you know, it's so exciting what's going to come down the tracks for us in the next 6 weeks. And I think, you know, Tony's involvement as the course superintendent really, you know, he took a lead in what he was looking for and working very closely with Mark. And I was only just there to support that kind of relationship. And I think, you know, the beauty of the high lips, you know, there was a lot of talk, there's going to be a lot of fly mowing and there's going to be a lot of additional manual. It actually isn't. If you look at even what we've done on 11, that the high faces and the visibility that's going to be achieved will actually narrow down a lot of that fly mowing, that manual labour that's going to be required. There will be, but it won't be to the same extent. And I just think what I'm excited about is the way that Mark has utilised the land in his expertise, and it's all settled down so beautifully. I mean, I guess when members saw it first, it was, oh God, this looks a little bit, you know, a little bit extreme. But over the winter, it's all settled down and it's matured. And having to see that journey of it all settling down and maturing, and then obviously now, today and tomorrow when Mark is marking everything out. I mean, the next 3 to 4 weeks is just going to be such a great time for the club.
The sand, I have to ask you two things. It's going to take between 6 to 12 months for the sand to settle. So there will be plug balls. Members are just going to have to deal with sand as it settles, and it's one of the hazards of any golf course, whether it's the K Club, whether it's Blaine Road, of new sand going in. So we just have to be patient in that regard. The other thing is hand raking. Members obviously will have a huge part in the maintenance of these bunkers. Our previous bunkers were machine raked. These are going to be hand raked. There is less sand by a considerable amount by comparison to the previous bunkers to be hand raked. But is there a message you have about hand raking, and obviously for Tony and his crew and also the members?
Yeah, I mean, I think golf in general has changed in terms of the ownership of bunkers. And I think members, you know, it used to be a case you walk in, play a shot, and you'd almost expect the greenkeeper to come in behind it. It's not like that anymore. I mean, we're going to provide each bunker with a very high quality bunker rake. And I think the ownership of those bunkers is down to us as members and us as players. That when we get in, that we leave everything behind as we saw it. They're smaller bunkers. It's not a big ask. But I think that what I'm seeing with a lot of these bunker remodel out on the field in a lot of golf courses, that members buy into the journey very quick. And so the only ask that we're asking the members here is to treat those bunkers as your own. Leave them behind as you see it, and we'll be raking them 2-3 times a week, you know, in its entirety. But you know, particularly in that first year, as the sand settles, there will be an onus on the membership to help us out and rake behind you as you go. Particularly the investment doesn't stop with just the construction. We are providing rakes on each bunker, so you know, use the rakes and help us out, because otherwise, you know, we're just going to be in a situation where it looks like they're unkempt, and if they're unkempt, it doesn't reflect well on any of us.
Okay, and that's really a message that we are responsible for the bunkers that are going to be pristine, brand new out of the wrapper in a few weeks' time. Mark, just from this point onwards, what's going to happen? This sport bond goes in, the bunker lip's going to be cut, but explain exactly from this point to when we're finally going to be able to play the golf course with new bunkers, what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, over the next couple of days, I'm going to mark out the bunkers. Dog Golf will then cut the edges, clean the bunkers out, shape them, refresh the drainage if necessary. There must have been some contamination during the winter of the bunkers into the gravel. And once I've got the internal shape of the bunker absolutely perfect, it has to be concave, it has to be done properly, then they put their sports bond in, which is a pre-mixed product. They literally pour it in like concrete, trowel it out, get it to 50 millimeters thick. That'll have to dry over the next 2 or 3 days. I'm not too sure exactly how long it takes to dry, and then the sand goes in. And that's it. Once the sand is in, we're away.
So hopefully that'll be late May, early June. Hopefully late May. We all want that to be the case. Mark Westenberg, our course architect, Jerry Byrne, our agronomy advisor. There's so many more people involved in this. I can't name them all, but I have to say 2 things. Tony Redmond, your head greenkeeper, has done an extraordinary bit of work over the last 6 months to make this project flow as well as it has with the, I think, very challenging conditions. These bunkers were presented for Mark to come back in April. When he last saw them in January and early February, the sod was only knitting in, so Tony and his team have done a fantastic job to make that sod ready to be cut so that we can see those bunker lips. And also to Graham and his team in Dargolf, they have performed Herculean levels of work to make this project hopefully run out, not just on time, but their attention to detail and the shaping of the bunkers and the way that they have almost used those heavy diggers with the little truck or the bucket on the front of them. The fine tuning to millimeter levels of making these bunkers the shape that they are, the beautiful shapes that they are, down to the fine tuning work of Graham, Darcy and his team. But from Mark Westenberg and Jerry, from a beautiful day that's slightly clouded over here in Blaine Road, but plenty of days like this ahead. And in those days, we're going to be enjoying a golf course, which I think will be at its very, very peak, with our new bunkers to be shown off, hopefully by early to midsummer. Thanks very much.